You know what I love about this strange thing painting, and I do want to call it a painting, is I don't know the reference. I have no idea where it came from. It feels like an original work. Artist Journal, January 26, 2023. Broadcasting to the world from Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. And as soon as I saw this work, I wanted to start with it. I put in my little note, start with this. This looks great. There's just something about it that hits you on a reptilian level, just immediately. Could be the color. Maybe it is the reference photos. But you know what's interesting also? The colors do feel like Strange Thing. And even the distortions, I've seen it before, even in like my own experimentations, what I want to call a mirror effect. You see this repetition here. It's almost like a mirror effect, again, like kind of AI distortion writ large in this, what looks like, kind of an obscure 19th century painting kind of thing. God, I'd love to be there right now, frankly. That weather looks fantastic. And there, of course, is the, his trademark, Strange Things trademark, the glass of red wine. And I'm a huge fan, frankly, of red wine. I was drinking a lot of white this summer. And again, maybe it's the Mediterranean background or whatever, but as I tell people, it's just like the wine just sort of splashes against my organs. And I love that. It makes me feel good, and not just from the effect. So anyways, maybe I've gone too far. The resveratrol, too much information, my friends. So anyways, again, just like a fantastic work of art. Just like, again, here it's distorted. It's not all, pixelated just there. And then this guy is different from these guys, and these guys mirror. Just really, really interesting in this weird cutoff thing here. Again, embracing the mistakes, a Warholian idea, embrace your mistakes. And so I love how he's doing that. And you got to love the shoes and the Nike symbols and everything. And of course, the picture of wine maybe, with the Nike symbol on it. And just the ambiguity, you can just go deeper and deeper. So I'm trying to keep these short, so I will. Thank you very much, everybody who showed up to the Twitter Spaces yesterday. What a fascinating discussion with Sabato. We had some technical issues. I guess I think it was because I was inviting Runetoon to co-host while I think he was requesting to be a speaker, and I think that's what happened because apparently I haven't even listened to the recording yet. But apparently he wasn't being heard, and thanks to mech.txt, and actually in Haiti Rocket and Joe Rogan's dad sent me some messages. I'm a terrible multitasker, so I missed the messages till after the show, but that people couldn't hear Runetoon. Anyways, we sorted it out after 4 or 5 minutes. I think the recording is still pinned on my tweets. It might not be, it's in my feed. And anyways, go to minute 7 or 8 or 10, whatever it is. There's a fantastic discussion with Sabato there, and Purple Drank also came in. And shout out to Runetoon, frankly, who was at the airport, and we'll actually get back to that in a second. And also, this is Purple Drank, who was at the airport as he was talking, as he chimed in, and he sent us a picture. He was at the Medici Cafe in the airport here. So we had 2 guys in the airport. Runetoon, who showed up from the airport. So again, thank you for just, showing up. And Runetoon does a fantastic job. So I'm just thrilled, and I'll just edit it out. What I'm going to try and do is actually see if I can get it on speaker, record that, put it in. I need to start uploading everything to Rug Radio. Anyways, too much information here, folks. Anyways, I thought this was great. It was an awesome discussion. Alfred Jarry, Pataphysics, Baudrillard, who else? Walter Benjamin, as they pronounce it out here, and as Sabato also pronounced it. Anyways, it was an awesome discussion, and it really just goes to show what I already knew, which is the depth of Sabato's artistic, vision. It's something I've recognized for a long time. So I think it was just awesome. And other people, I got a couple of messages after like, oh, I was going to go in, but I didn't want to stop what you guys were talking about. A couple of artists. So anyways, we'll return to that topic of basically writing in the arts on a future, maybe in a couple of months or something. And then again, and I'm, everything is on the table. So, one person was saying, oh, there's biographies I would like to talk about, but I don't want to bring it on. Like everything are words and images, and I don't prioritize. Sometimes a billboard can be as nicer than what you see in a museum in my universe. So there is no, to use a little, there is no privileging over here of one over the other. There is, everything is open. We will see where this goes. Just a quick write-up from Strange Thing. The next part of the Kingdom of Thieves storyline, the Roadmen on Super Rare. So reserve of 3 ETH. I think he got 3 ETH on the last one too. And he takes his time. Like he waited to get the right piece and then he uploads it to Super Rare. The collector of this piece will decide the ending of the story next mint via Super Rare. So also doing kind of a narrative thing like we saw with Clown Vamp to find out the chosen story path so far and links. So anyways, check it out. And we remember this from a couple of months ago. So he's taking his sweet time to make sure he puts out, uber quality from the looks of it. So shout out to Strange Thing, who has been awesome. And we've loved to follow his progress for months now, since September, I think. Early September. And it's awesome to see where he's gone. Again, the promise of the NFT space. Just a couple of comments. Remember, so back to this idea of, is older art collectible, older digital art that hasn't been minted, that was pre-blockchain, for example, is that still a collectible art? And John Zobeli chimed in, some of my favorite works have previously uploaded elsewhere, existing in the middle space on Tumblr or something. So, some of his favorite works were uploaded on Tumblr previously. To be able to finally own artwork that has just lived in the ether for a decade is an exciting prospect for me as a collector. Then again, I feel like I'm in the minority since there are a lot of new appreciators of digital art lately. They didn't have that same experience of discovering the art in its original context and time. They just see it's from 2014 and shrug it off. Yeah, again, it's that what I would call an irrational bias that I even see in myself, right? But I suspect that will shrug off, especially if we're to look out 2, 5, and 10 years out, and if these works that we're currently looking at appreciate in value, I think they might. They might, and they might not, by the way. And again, not financial advice or anything. But if they do appreciate in value, then I do think if works are minted now from 2014, if those other works have taken off to the moon, and then someone, then those, I could see collectors going, okay, I can't afford the works that went to the moon, but I can afford these ones that were minted in 2014, and before you know it, they'll also be on their way to the moon. It's sort of how I see it from a collectability point of view. Again, if Sabato started minting works from 2010 or Sky Goodman, maybe they already have, actually, then I'd be wanting to take a look. And, so it's all just kind of interesting. Or, you get, as I was saying, if Ralph Steadman, thank you, Mecha Media. Ralph Steadman is the illustrator from Fear and Loathing that we were talking about the other day, is Ralph Steadman. If Ralph Steadman had digital works, as I was saying last episode, that he was minting, I'd be pretty interested. Okay. I've never seen Neurocolor, incredible work, agreed, Rune Tune, and this was hilarious, and then we're going to run through this episode here. Flora Marquez, I'm loving these videos so much. It's great to hear, because Flora Marquez is one of the first artists I discovered on Tezos and Object a year ago. You made me laugh with the comment about writer's clothing. That's so true. And I was thinking, another guy who's kind of classic suit wearer out of the arts, and there are many, is Rene Magritte. He was your classic, I think he was described often as bourgeois. I don't know if that's the right, in today's language, we don't really use that word anymore, but he always wore a suit. Do you ever see Rene Magritte not dressed up? So, Dali as well, at least, especially in the early days, always. So it's a fun thing to talk about. I think there is something to be said. I mean, I started this show wearing t-shirts. And I decided, you know what? And, Fridays I still wear t-shirts now, but I decided, it is kind of fun. And it's, wear collars, for example, and just to dress a little bit more kind of formal. I like that because in a sense in the arts, you're kind of perennially not taken seriously. So it's kind of a way of being, beating that bias. Okay, he's an artist and look at how well he's dressing, or she. So it's just kind of a fun thing to talk about. And I'm glad you enjoyed that, Flora. Great to hear from you. And thanks for showing up to the spaces yesterday. I know you're at work, as you're saying, but we're going to have another one, and it'd be great for you to chime in. Interesting comment from Rare. And this brings up a whole other issue that we haven't discussed, actually. So he has some works by Cause here, and Rare, who has been doing really well lately, said, eventually I will rotate some of my ETH to fiat and pick up a few early Cause pieces. I'm all in on NFTs, but I also love collecting art in general. Any non-NF pieces you would want to collect, realistically, not like a Kuhn's balloon dog, but something that is attainable. And this is kind of an interesting thing, and these actually look pretty great. I'm not like the biggest Cause fan, but I think these are actually some of the nicest works I've seen by Cause, some of the most interesting. And it's interesting to actually look at the disparity between physical art and digital art. And what you find is when you get off of Tezos and you're on Ethereum, you'll actually, like the physical art, some of it starts to actually look reasonably cheap, relatively speaking. Like I remember during the bull run of 2021, you were seeing works go for, $200,000, $150,000. Still, I think the Fidenzas still go for $100,000. These digital artworks that you can see on by Tyler Hobbs on OpenSea. Now, what's interesting is I remember looking at it was either Christie or Sotheby's auction live, and they had a Max Ernst painting, and it was like $130,000. And I was like, and I think those have gone up. Surrealist paintings have become very hot in the last 2 years. Finally. I couldn't believe how, but I was just like, you can get, there's a Duchamp that I'd never seen before, and it was like $120,000 or $130,000. Now, that's a lot of money, but if you're spending, $120 on a Tyler Hobbs Fidenza, I mean, the digital art collectors should ask themselves, they should look and just be like, or do you want the Warhol? I think you can buy Warhols, it's for $40,000, $50,000, and you can get lithographs for much cheaper. So anyways, I think just brings up a very interesting topic of valuations. Now, Tezos, it's very cheap, right? Nevertheless, Rare here, this is super interesting, not just the sale, just sold on secondary for 500 Tezos, so Rare doing very well. This is actually what I wanted to highlight, although the market is always interesting here. An example of the way I used AI to help with my paintings last year. I would take a reference photo, then abstract it using GAN, which I think is AI, then take the output and repaint digitally the entire thing. And this is how I always sort of thought of AI, which is kind of like a tool to help you paint unimaginable pictures, or just as a way of kind of a creativity tool where, again, the machine spits something out after you put something in, and then all of a sudden you have a new composition, and then why not just paint that? Because that is one of the most difficult things in being an artist, is what to paint. And then if you decide, okay, I'm going to do still lives, well, how am I going to make that original after, thousands of years and thousands of paintings of, flowers? Well, maybe you do this. So to me, this is actually from a conceptual level and even a historical level. This kind of stuff is very interesting. And I don't think this is the end of, I think we're at the very, very, very beginning of this. And I think we're going to see this bleed into contemporary art as well. Contemporary painting. I think I imagine it's already started, but I haven't seen it a ton, but I think we will. So another super interesting comment. Now, speaking of traveling through the mediums, which is another way of framing this discussion, Confused Collector, noise paintings by William Apan added to the collection, hand painting of a hand-coded generative sketch. Okay, so a similar idea here. So a hand painting of using generative art, using code. Okay, so very similar idea here. Okay, and we have some more examples. So I brought up William Mapen's just one of his works on OpenSea. This is actually owned by 6529, another artist that I wasn't really aware of, who is doing incredibly well. And if you look here, this appears to be, like if you look here, I don't know if you can see it, this looks like brush strokes that have been rendered into code. And it kind of reminds me of actually some of the things I was doing with The Secret History of World War III. In a sense, this idea, again, traveling through the mediums. I would just paint and take a picture, import it digitally, and then, glitch it and whatever. And there's a fantastic discussion on glitch, by the way, in that Twitter Spaces. But continuing on, so anyways, we're seeing just different angles, different approaches to this whole idea of physical and basically AI, and I mean what we could loosely call code, because even AI we could call code, but with reference images. Whereas maybe this is just code. I'm not sure, right? But all to say, it's very interesting. Let's just see very quickly what he said. Machines are known to execute perfectly what humans tell them, but what if machines could actually help us as a human? So that's kind of where we're going here with this discussion. Through a hand-coded algorithm, the artist explores and experiments further into his capability to express himself. So it's a little ambiguous here. He connects his love for painting with code to build a new space where he can freely iterate on his practice. The machine is more than a tool, it's a creative partner. So a creative partner, right? So all just kind of interesting. These are the issues that today's artists are confronting. Okay, made with code, William Mapen. So here it is again, and it looks totally handcrafted, right? But made with code. So super interesting. Here as well, the Red Knight and the Horse. And these things look like total drawings that are textured. I mean, so everything's getting muddled here. We are traveling through the mediums. Speaking of which, so another work in progress shot. This one's fascinating, from Tezos, who's been providing us with these incredibly rich images. We're going to see Future Bed today, a little teaser there, and look at what he's using. Work in progress from tomorrow's desk. So he's working on a desk. The downside of working with CRT televisions is they are a pain to photograph for work in progress shots. So how cool is this? Welcome to the studio. You do your studio visit with Tezos, and this is what you find, and I'm pretty impressed. Okay, so looking good, very, very cool. And I thought I'd just throw this in here, MS Paint Pepe. And again, so this is a NFT from Quantum Communications, who I've never really heard about. And this is edition of 20, going for 100. And maybe that's on secondary, and it went for offers of 36 to 25, and just kind of an interesting piece of a Pepe on an old computer. So kind of similar to what we were just seeing in that work in progress shot. And so Slave Angel is doing a new manifold, and so this one's interesting. And I'm always fascinated by the mechanics here and the pricing, because it seems like going with lower pricing, and say this time it's 48 hours, and then you go for something, like this is pretty GM. I'll actually show you the live work here. 152 minted, so 1.5 ETH. This ended 19 hours ago, so it was up for 2 days. I missed it before. And you put like this dithering with GN, and just kind of a retro tech. Give everybody what they want, maybe some Mario clouds here in the background or something. And there you go. You have 1.5 ETH. I mean, which is what, like $2,300, $2,500? Not bad at all. So very cool. 152. So that hasn't slowed down the whole open edition thing. So here's, I think it's Skitchism, the sign, and he has a new work. I think it's a he on Foundation. Now, this is another artist who you often find early on, at least I did, and if you go to my collection in the very early stuff, you'll see this on the second or third page, a whole bunch of works by Skitchism. So it's like, this guy's pretty good, and it's digital, kind of like a psychedelic, illustrator. And so anyways, he has a new one on Foundation, and the colors are pretty awesome here, and it's beautiful. It's actually absolutely beautiful. So 0.234 ETH on Foundation and no bids as of yet. And here is his work on Object, where I think he started releasing again. And we've covered him a few times here. So anyways, a really cool illustrator if you've never seen him before. Sketchism. Morlakos, finally, with a rare release here. And what is this called? Pi OV, created by Morlakos in 2023. So V, as I assume, is for Vanguard. A group on Tezos there, and there's the V, and this really interesting horse done in Morlakos' style, as well as the person, and this green skin. So not sure if it's a reference to Pepe or not, giving a cheers. It's a very strange work, because one would expect that Morlakos would turn this landscape and that he would apply his style, this kind of, for lack of a better term, illustrative, cross-hatching, that he would apply it to the background. But instead he has this really hard contrast of very simple, big brushstroke kind of background, almost rough, but, clean edges. And then his clouds also done in that style. So a surprising, interesting, unusual work from Morlakos. So very cool. Great to see him again. I picked that up. Edition of 20, and that went for 5. I imagine it's on secondary by now, if I were to reload the page. Now, we looked at this work, I think, on Twitter, but I actually missed it as far as the auction. And so just a quick recap on this, a quick return to this. So this is, again, by Ratcloak, and he is kind of, sowing the seeds, but with bullets. Of course, Ratcloak is in Ukraine. So a very, contemporary work, really engaged in the news here. And here is the wheat field, this bright yellow. And you see it's almost like this purple and blue, again, the complementary. So, a brooding, another dark work, but with bright colors, And this actually got a pretty nice price from Purple Drank, who again sent us that picture of the airport of the Medici Cafe for $420. So a nice price here. Went for Uxine, put in a bid, and then Purple Drank just went for it. And there you go. Went for $420. Congratulations to all. The Sower. Bazaya also had a new work. I think this is Eminem, Slim Shady here. My name is Slim Shady on the tag. And so here you go, just a portrait with these glowing bright blue eyes. And almost, I want to say, a trademark Bazaya color in the background, this pink here. And great pink leaves. So not letting go of this realism. And this is a Tezos drop, and he's been doing great on Super Rare. It's great. I love seeing, again, multi-chain. I just think it's great. Like, I just go, this artist is flourishing when I see multi-chain action like that. So continuing on, Quasi Obieto, who I don't think I've ever seen before. And see, it's called Pixelscape. So I think this is purely digital. And if you really kind of zoom in, like there is kind of like a texture here that is strong. So I'm not exactly sure how this was created, because there are elements here that look like they are painting, but perhaps they have been kind of dithered or bitmapped or, turned into, it looks like almost a GIF type texture here, that if you were to do like 256 colors or even less, 128 colors, you would get this kind of texture. This almost looks like collage. Anyway, I thought it was just an interesting, good-looking work. Again, if you're in the museum and you turn over and you see this, I'm not disappointed. I'm like, what is this? So congratulations here. 20 Tezos, I think it's still available. One left. So this might have sold out, because sometimes I leave the windows open for a while. So Quasi Obieto, interesting artist. And kind of could hang in the same room here, Yuri J, the Glass Bead Game Deluxe Edition. Kind of back to the experimentation here. Like, look at the perspective that we see here. The little door here, the piano. Again, just kind of, the big bad. So, again, it makes me think of cubism, but not directly, indirectly. Like space is being distorted here. And again, classic Yuri J, a lot of kind of like digital patterns fill the outlines. And we kind of see that a little bit with Human Kernel. And you see his almost, what I almost consider trademark, because nobody uses the mosaic filter. You can almost see very, very lightly the mosaic like pixelate filter from Photoshop that nobody uses. To me, that's almost trademark Yuri J. Anyways, interesting work. 15, I think this is probably sold out by now, edition of 15 for 15 Tezos. This was a super interesting work by Dan Control. An unusual kind of like composition, like of space and everything. And I bought it right away. This is called Abacus, which refers to this device right here. Again, using his trademark gradient style. And you gotta love how he applies it to the chalkboard here of a classroom. I assume this is a mirror or a poster here. And it's really interesting to just see it feels like ambitious work with this big composition, this big space, this big kind of painting. It could take up its own wall, is kind of how it feels to me. So that was available for 5 on primary and editions of 20. Dan Control, keeping it interesting. Daniel W., eternal sequencing, occult alchemy sequence. So whichever path you choose, you can't escape the eternal sequence. So kind of a mysterious work. I mean, he puts out tarot cards and also, the monsters and everything. So he's got a thing for kind of the occult and just kind of rich, what I'd call imagery here. Anyways, sun, key, the crow, kind of symbolic, the moon. So interesting work, always beautifully put together by Daniel W., available for 8, edition of 25. Interesting title, Eternal Sequencing. Good title. I'm always for a good title over here. Flora Marquez, who left the comment earlier with another one-of-one sketch, and she's been releasing these pretty much daily, and just another kind of cool work. And I think she was saying she was having problems with the feet, and so you see that, and I love how she leaves, again, leaving the mistakes, right? Embrace the mistakes, creating the habit. So maybe it's a self-portrait even, I don't know. Captain Kimmy has made an offer, still available. And did you see the head there? Like it's, we're looking at so many images here. It's hard to, sometimes you can miss these crucial details here. So anyways, I also really like the graph paper. But continuing on, we're at the 27-minute mark and we got to run through the rest of this. So Santiago, theme park of crypto art and NFTs culture. So buy for 5. And this is on primary. So again, in his trademark style here, going digital painting made on GIMP and Inkscape. So it fits great with those other works. This was a really cool piece. Again, kind of riffing off of the Mark Rothko color fields here. And I will just give you a little taste here. It's kind of a digital version, right? A digital echo of Rothko here. And almost, I can't remember the name, James Turrell. Kind of has a James Turrell, the light artist, contemporary artist, who is probably best known light artist, I guess you'd call him. Kind of has a bit of a James Turrell feel. So anyways, pretty interesting from MCHX, edition of 1. Look at how great that looks. It goes for 1 minute and 20. We don't have time here. So hasn't sold yet. AI generated color field animation. So AI is starting to bleed into the rest of this show. Human Kernel. So just another portrait with experimentation here. And we're kind of going into an experimental area of the show here as far as the works. So again, almost like, someone used the term digital expressionism earlier. That's kind of how it's feeling with a lot of these works like we just saw from Human Kernel. Rustic digital art, more experimentation, taking the crop Mario and making it tiny. And just playing with tininess, and again, playing with irrationality. Again, I go, this is outrageous. You can't do this. That's not art, but it is. That's what makes it art in a lot of ways. So, great work by Rustic Digital Art as always. This question mark, it's almost like these paintings are questions, probing questions of what is acceptable, what is rational. In some respects. Again, he said it was a response to AI. So you see the depth and sophistication of a lot of these artists, what they're dealing with. These aren't like simple works from a conceptual point of view. Here's more experimentation. Again, Ed Marola, not afraid to kind of just, again, has an expressionist feel to it here in the horse, and then on his computer, maybe a self-portrait of a certain kind. And there's the guy smoking. Maybe that's also him. And the UFO. And again, these kind of like, the pixelation gets kind of blurred out here. And then you see, there's a ton of experimentation going on here. So it feels like a portrait of sorts but maybe it's a portrait of the collector, Hen Horsuk. Cityscape, also by Ed Marola. And again, this roughness you see here in the pixelation, this blurred, almost like it's been rendered 10 times, and you start to get that kind of distortion. And you even see, like, if you look up close, you'll see diagonal lines, which almost looks like it's a picture of the screen. And I'm guessing, and it's probably not, but it might be. Okay, so we're seeing serious experimentation here. There's a figure in the foreground here. So edition of 35, buy for 10 on primary. And Uxine, enjoy losing. So kind of almost the sense of humor that is in Uxine's work that we're kind of used to. And a skull and what do you call that kind of machine? Not a jackpot machine, anyways. And one of those machines that you find in gambling. And it had a good title too, 000 lose, enjoy losing. So interesting commentary there. And let's just see, I think he put this out really quickly. And what happened here? I think because Uxine has obviously been making great sales, and maybe so 410 to 333, and that was an hour after listing. So it sounds like he just put it out very quickly, taking the top 10 offers probably in an hour, or the top offers in an hour, I'm guessing. Now it's 777, and it sold on secondary for 500, and so there you go. Anyway, cool work as usual, and just kind of a window into more of Uxine's process here. And I can't get enough of these tweets. This is a great one. How he does this. Like, I love how he does those tweets. Anyways, so just kind of interesting, right? Kind of Petsky filter working with, and his kind of works with glitch, using many techniques, and then synthesizes them into kind of coherent unity to a certain degree. Continuing on, how are we doing here? I am running through this, friends. Now, Niku P, Santa Claus here, who is also known as Santa Claus on Object, has been putting out this kind of generative art, I think using JavaScript. So this looks like a sunrise. Wishful thinking about the sun. Yeah, absolutely, especially here in gray Berlin. And then he put out the Mona Lisa effect, 1-bit generative artwork created in P5.js. I assume that's JavaScript. JavaScript with cellular automata textures. So again, the experimentation is alive and well out here, isn't it? It's all over the place. And to me, that makes me continuously bullish on this scene. So here's the Mona Lisa and a variation on it, Uncatchable Smile. So just super interesting experimentation over here using JavaScript. Françoise Gamma with more experimentation, and kind of looks like a Petsky. There's a touch of Petsky filter in here you see the letters, but kind of not entirely. Maybe it's a Petsky filter on a line drawing or putting, So anyways, playing with the, subject that Françoise Gamma loves, which is basically the human body and its digital representation, it would seem to me. Sabato, who again, shout out to Sabato for that awesome discussion yesterday, and I will edit out the glitches at the very start and get that up on Spotify here. So anyways, Year of the Rabbit, and again, look at the experimentation here. So it's a rabbit that's stretched out. Like, I have no idea what's going on here, but keeping it interesting, and then this crazy kind of balloon dog here. And I assume that's maybe a reference to China with the yellow and the red. And of course, the Chinese New Year here. Year of the Rabbit, Round Po, who I think is a pet, and Liquid Rosie, who I think is his rabbit. So his rabbit has been liquefied. So editions of 23 available for 15. And Yeah, so here's Sabato's work, and yeah, so for those, you might remember this work from a few days ago, this work for newer viewers here, and of course the UFO, the Great Horse, and the masterpiece over here, Boo. Boo in repose. More pixel art here. Captain's Gift Shop with a couple of really nice ones here. Donut, I think this is called, or it is a donut. And again, kind of got a Wayne Thiebaud, but for the pixel for the 21st century here, deluxe paint and GIMP. So again, retro tools and GIMP. And we have another one here, Cheesecake, Captain's Gift Shop here. And so the word is out. These are selling quickly. I quite like the animation on this one as well, and the colors and everything. So he's doing awesome here. I couldn't believe this was available, because this kind of sums up my life sometimes, few hours of the day here, which is Tezos and coffee. A wonderful fusion here of iconography. A wonderful fusion. So I was able to pick that up. Hot chocolate. Oh, I guess it's hot chocolate. In my universe, this is a coffee here. I'll embrace the ambiguity. And so anyways, yeah, so he's offering these one-of-ones for 10. And of course, Cap'n puts out those great works under Cap'n, and also under Plants, we think, because we see Cap'n Hayes here, and putting out the inspired plant works here. So this looks kind of scientific, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a microscope version, a magnification of the cell imagery of the plant. And again, this wonderful kind of frame, the contrast of the black and white with the moving color, the static black and white with the dynamic color. So sophisticated work here, ladies and gentlemen. What was that called? And we'll look very quickly. Arhash Poinsettia. And Stolimir with these strange pixel artworks from Homeworld Memories. Maybe I'll try and bring that up. And this almost looks like Congress, but not. Like Congress on an alien world or something. And then you see the spaceship coming out of it. So, and then you see this weird, like it almost recollects the previous work here. See down here with the guy and the laser that's kind of going to all the people. Now, I think I brought it up here. It's reminiscent of this work here. Doesn't it kind of look like the front door at a different time of day? So just kind of interesting. Right? It is a world. Our Milk with another pixel artwork. And what is this called? It had a good Tired Pixels. This is one of the old levels for my game. Part of the anniversary token I will give to my best collectors. So anyways, interesting pixel art, kind of sci-fi pixel art is what we seem to be looking at here in the last couple. Speaking of which, Tom Bombadil probably could be added to that. Radioactive Rain 2, and he put out a couple of works here, and he continues to do very well. Interesting portrayal of the rain here too. And then you see kind of that CMYK or almost default television, retro television colors. Seems to be what's going on there. Anyway, interesting work with his Sandman type figure, who seems to be, loaded up to or hooked up to an oxygen tank of some kind, sci-fi oxygen tank. And here's another one with these wonderful borders here, Quantum Soldiers. So again, in that same series, using kind of this 8-bit kind of, nostalgia and 8-bit. Again, the colors are my favorite part, frankly. Or the clouds, I meant to say. The clouds are my favorite part here. And the shadows, how he just uses that simple dithering. Like he doesn't deviate and use several kinds of dithering. He uses that one kind of 4-on-the-floor dithering here. Checkerboard dithering. And of course, this is part of the Spectrum collection. So he's been very prolific and been doing very well. I just picked up the first appearance of that guy for 24. I thought that was cheap. So anyways, Sad Girl with a glitch, again, sticking with the kind of glitch anime work. So again, just kind of interesting and edgy as ever. Edition of 6, what's it called? IODMG. And let's just quickly look at what happened here. Looking at the clock, we're at the 40-minute mark. And yeah, these went for 10 and 16. Tajin Burkock is collecting a lot. That's what I'm seeing here. He picked up my Kissinger piece, and he's all over the place. He is bullish, is my impression. Shout out to Tajin. That's great. So Sad Girl. So another cool piece here. Datura with another interesting work. Again, kind of in between abstraction and representation, but it does seem to be representative. It looks like kind of the edge of a seacoast here, and then 4 columns that seem to be moving. Just kind of edgy pixel art here from Datura and his edgy name. And here, maybe some of you have been waiting for this, another Future Bed 2 by Aitzo. So again, the richness of these works is something to behold here. I mean, it's just wonderfully rich. It's very easy on the eyes, isn't it? So love what's going on with this furniture series here. Future Bed, great title too. And continuing on, Coda Nakazono. And yeah, some more work that kind of combining pixels, or these square pixels in the background with kind of liquid forms. Just an interesting contrast here, and animated. And edition of 5 for 25, and I have another one here. Again, kind of playing with this, animation with kind of these hard-edged pixels. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Sky Goodman with those, big chunky pixels that he uses. So anyways, I like those big chunky pixels a lot. Creates great contrast. And buy for $18.15, edition of 5, Coda Nakazono. Side Hustle with a very interesting piece here. Very kind of, for lack of a better term, well, I guess it's high res, but small canvas, right? Looks like, let's just see. Did he made with graphics too, so retro tools. And again, it looks like 30 by 60 pixels, if I had to guess here. Really interesting GIF, edition of 10, available for 5. Kurt Hustle Collective. So they put this out. Let me see if I can get the volume going. And so they put out a new video game, apparently. Peanut and butter. So, fun as always with those guys. Kind of, the music is always awesome, like beautifully produced, and they make it themselves. Track 1 theme tune. Kind of has a Sega Genesis feel to it, doesn't it? So there's Peanut and Butter. And they've been putting out these strange AI portraits. He sent actually a couple to me as a gift of I'm one of the top collectors apparently of Kurt Hustle Collective. Actually, I'm not surprised because I'm a huge fan. And so he's been putting out these kind of, I think, are AI remixes here. And we'll just quickly see what they've written. We've just purchased the ALAI Master Video Compositor. We fed the Ally with every Puppet Pioneers portrait we had, and now it's turning out the whole new collection. Totally worth the investment. So I'm not sure if he's making fun of things here, of AI or what. But anyways, keeping it interesting. And again, what do we see here is experimentation, right? And not afraid to release experimentation. I love the boldness of these artists here. Not afraid to experiment. Speaking of which, the great Mason III, Data Run 1999. So playing with glitch ROM that is kind of edited, severely edited. Again, big chunky pixels seem to be in, aren't they? And it looks like someone running, ROM corruption, raw glitch. And again, if you want a good discussion on glitch, I highly recommend the Spaces yesterday to give that a listen. Glitchtown Arcade, who also uses ROM corruption, digital painting and ROM corruption. So again, the experimentation. GN, and here you see a GIF, and with some kind of Windows 95 type folders and windows, and you see the cursor here, GM on the shirt, GN on the folder here. So anyways, available for 15, edition of 10, and that is on, I think it's on primary. There's one left, or maybe on secondary. Glitch NFTs is the seller. So as we wrap up here, how are we doing for time? I'm going to run through this. So Georgie was we've looked at his work before, and here's some more. Just these very interesting generative 3D artworks. I think they're generative. I'm actually not positive on that. And Georgie has work on Foundation. Post-Soviet child believes in shape, light, and color. Very interesting artist. And here's some more what looks like generative art to me. Nicholas Daniel, I create stuff with code. And we looked at their work, I think, last show. And here is another variation. So just continues to be interesting here. Charles AI has just released a series of 3. So as we move into AI, and Let me just see here. So it looks pretty kind of high res. And I'm pleased to announce that Renaissance 2.0, the digital evolution of art, a series of 3 pieces will be dropped with Fount Gallery on the 26th of January. So I actually brought up the page, and it's a good looking page. So this is renaissance.fount.gallery. I didn't even know there's .gallery these days. Like, everything's moving so fast, isn't it? I mean, it feels like .art just got launched, and now we have .gallery. So here it is, a beautiful page here. Really nice website. That looks like Futura font here. Charles AI Collection is a series of 3 artworks. And here they are. And you can see a reserve of 4.5 for the one we just saw. And then this nice work here at 0.25. An edition, maybe that's open edition, I'm not sure. And then an edition of 10 for 0.5. And look at how great that looks. So really rich colors, aren't they? So I'm digging the color a lot, Charles AI. Very interesting. Continuing on, Sky Goodman, as we go into AI and wrap up here. 45 minutes, we've got to run. So Sky Goodman with another, lost sneaker using AI and several techniques. You can kind of see this glitchiness here. So very interesting, where almost 2-dimensional meets 3-dimensional, a little ambiguous. Great color, again, edition of 11 or 13, and went for 6. And an all-star cast here, Mike Wilson, House of the Model, John Cates. And Sabato had some very interesting things to say about John Cates. Like, I'm learning a ton here as we go through this. Martin Joe with a new one as well, a new AI work, Barina the Collector. It's got some volume. There it is. And you can see some of Martin Joe's works in the background here, which is a common technique I'm seeing a lot across, you'll see Bazaya do that and many others. So anyways, nice new work from Martin Joe, Barina the Collector. Again, playing with AI, and in the background is kind of like this glitchiness, for lack of a better term. And some golden skulls here, a rug, just kind of edgy as usual. This was a AI work I found on Twitter from Olina Speaking Tomato. I think we showed one of her works before, Mischief Makers. Maybe this is a detail, actually, of a bigger work. But it's interesting in itself, nevertheless. I mean, it feels like AI here. And it almost looks like there's 6 fingers, but there's not. There's 5. So I assume this is AI. It's got that feeling to it, doesn't it? Anyway, just kind of a nice work. In passing, Kona Jitude with a interesting portrait as well. Again, this looks like AI. Let's just see what's going on here. Sci and Phi, AI and digital artist. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Interesting portrait. And also here, kind of using Lego. And let's just see who this is. Ilya Blitznets. Another piece was minted yesterday. Thank you, Pericon Tom. Collection Lego and Human, and this is available on Foundation. So interesting combination there. And here was another AI piece that kind of stood out. Silent River by Nina Krasnova, traditional, digital, and AI artist. So another nice render here. Just a beautiful work here. And continuing, Mr. Shapeless shows up with a very interesting sky and something in the sky. And this landscape here in particular stood out to me. Again, has a Yves Tanguy feel to it. And let me show you. This is Yves Tanguy, the surrealist. You can see his name there. A painter out of, I think, Brittany, which is in France, in the northwest of France, I believe. And you see, here's just more Yves Tanguy. So just to kind of, again, this totally has a Tanguy feel to it. Anyways, a little art history there. And finally, I wasn't sure if this is physical or what, but I thought it was just an interesting combination of landscape and big chunks of color here. A nice work. And this is by M.L. Mother Louisiane, whose name I have definitely seen before. Defragmentation. Cool work. Thanks, everyone. And thank you for joining again. And until next time, take care.